So I just got finished watching the WrestleMania Behind the Curtain documentary, and I had some thoughts about it from my work as a TV producer. Like I had some strong reactions to it. I had some reactions to it as a wrestling fan too. Obviously, like I think it's very moving, and I think it's sort of fascinating to watch as a wrestling fan, just to sort of see how it all functions. But really, the most surprising part is just how much it all works, sort of like regular television. The things that really stuck out to me, that really remained sort of the most fascinating, are just how seat of the pants it all was, and how much when you walk into a writer's room, you have, as a showrunner, as a staff member, you have a plan. Almost immediately, no matter how good that plan is, the second that plan gets to the talent, the second that plan gets to the network, the second that plan gets anywhere, it gets changed. It's just the reality of telling stories. What's wild, and I think what's so cool about wrestling, and part of why I love wrestling so much and why I enjoy talking about it so much, is that there's this whole added layer, because that happens with the audience too. That the audience in the room wildly changes how the story works. And what's sort of fascinating to watch in this documentary is that they had to pivot so hard because they didn't just see that what they were doing was a mistake. Like I find it kind of, it's very typical behind the scenes documentary that like nobody's like, whoa, we really fucked up, which is what you sort of realize is what's actually going on, is them, that they fucked up. They made a very bad calculation. But what's actually going on, and like I think what makes it so fascinating to watch, is that the audience has the final say in everything. They decide what succeeds. They decide what lives and dies. And I think we forget that now. In the age of streaming, decisions are made about the lives of shows before they even set foot in front of people, because executives and algorithms and the invisible powers that be make these decisions. For example, like, this is true working for NBC, and this is true working for Netflix. This is true working for Sci-Fi Channel. This is true working for CBS. This is true working for anybody. Everything you do in television is focus grouped to death. What's happened recently is that that's all become algorithm focus grouped. So you actually get a report, and that report tells you, your show is similar to show A. Show A succeeded in this way, this way, this way, and this way. Show failed in this way, this way, and this way. Change these things about your show so that your show succeeds and doesn't fail. What's problematic about that is that, and I've had this happen multiple times on multiple shows, is that the things that they say about show A that made it succeed are almost always identical to the things that they say made it fail. And what you saw in that documentary is sort of the same thing. Like, what brought all the attention in to WrestleMania this year, to WrestleMania 40, was The Rock. Like, The Rock brought all those eyes in. But what really hooked people and what made people that excited was Cody. The Cody story was actually what they were selling. You know? And I think that's really fascinating. The other thing that really stood out to me was how much their destiny is sort of driven by the talent. And to be honest with you, like, I haven't worked on a lot of shows that have made it to be successful enough to have talent that are big stars. I've worked on a lot of season 1 shows that didn't make it to season 2. And so, you know, in my experience, like, I haven't actually had to work with a lot of really difficult talent. I've always gotten to work with talent who are just really excited to be there and really happy to have the opportunity to be on a show. But what we see happening sort of, you know, anecdotally, and like what I've gotten from lots of my friends who've worked on shows, is how much you have your star walk in and say, I'm not doing this today, I'm doing this instead because I know that this is better. I know that this is the story that my character would do because my character knows best, because I am my character. What's wild about WWE and wrestling in general is that they are their characters, right? Like, even though they are playing sort of hyped up versions of themselves, they're still playing themselves. So they do know themselves. They do know what they want. So, you know, Triple H tells Cody, you're not facing Roman Reigns. And what does Cody do when he wins the Royal Rumble? He pointed at Roman Reigns. Dude went into business for himself, man. Which is wild. Like, Cody's the good guy in the story, but as a producer, that is like, what a dick move. Like, dude, you were told we're not doing that. That is not the story we're doing. What are you doing? And as much as like the fan reaction, as much as the like genuine fan response is what moved everything, Cody doing that set an expectation amongst the audience that the WWE, like it or not, was now going to have to fulfill. Because what they did and what you're doing with your audience is you're making a series of promises. And those promises have to mean something. More so, I think. Maybe not more so. More so is probably not fair. You know, storytelling is a bargain that we make. It's a bargain where we say that, like, you trust us because we're holding the rug and we're going to pull that rug out repeatedly, over and over and over and over and over. We're going to pull that rug out. But we're pulling that rug out for a really good reason. It is worth it. It is worth it for you to let us pull that rug out from underneath you because you are going to feel something. But you got to trust us that you're going to feel the right thing. That you're going to feel something meaningful and fleshy and honest and real. And if you pull that rug out and what they feel is bullshit, your audience gets mad. And your audience leaves. And your audience does not come back. And that is what happens. Like, when you watch TV shows that fall apart, that lose their audience, that go off the rails, that jump the shark, that is what has happened. Is that they have made one too many promises that they have not lived up to, that they have not capitalized on. Wrestling's no different. And what we watched and what the reaction was, in my opinion, what the reaction to taking it away from Cody was pulling the rug out and not giving a result that had the same emotional impact. And you could see that, right? Because as much as, like, when they talk about the Roman versus Rock story, even in the documentary, they're licking their lips at the prospect, but they're licking their lips at the financial prospects. They are not licking their lips at the. And that's really important because that is a huge difference. It's a huge, huge difference, you know? And people can feel that. People can feel the difference between doing something because it makes financial sense and because it makes dramatic sense. And I don't know what the dramatic sense of the story of Rock versus Roman is. And frankly, I don't know that they know what the dramatic purpose of that story is. At least then. What we're seeing on WWE TV right now, if they're doing what we all sort of assume they're doing with this Civil War story, is setting that up, right? If you're going to have that Roman is being ousted by The Rock, and The Rock is sort of in charge of like the new bloodline with Solo, Sikoa, and everything, and now it's up to Roman to come back to reclaim his throne. Oh, okay, that's a story I can get behind. That's a story that I understand. That's a story that can be told because that's a story that has an emotional core to it. That's a story that's not just I want to do big business. But they, at that time, at the time of before WrestleMania, the entirety of that story was about one thing: making money. Which is like the weirdest, hardest part about doing storytelling for a living, is that what we do is entirely about commerce. Except that it can't be, because it has to be about the art. It has to be about art and compassion and humanity. It just has to be done in such a way that it actually touches people's hearts. Doing that well and doing that meaningfully and doing that in a way that actually engages people is incredibly difficult to do. And very few people can do it well. And the fact that there is anything on TV that does that, the fact that there's any movies that can do that, the fact that there's any music that can do that, the fact that there's any art whatsoever that can do that is a miracle that we should all be just so unbelievably grateful for. Like, we should be so grateful that there is beautiful things in this world that can exist, especially today, because the way the world works now is that everything is about the bottom line. Everything is about making money. You know, the entire sort of corporate structure of what's happened to entertainment has made it so that everything being made has to make so much profit from the jump that the very prospect of doing something for the art doesn't exist anymore. What this documentary is about, and this is crazy, but what it meant to me was proof that you still, at its core, if you want to make a difference, if you want to actually have an impact on people, if you want to actually do real big business, you still have to go from the heart and from the art. So yeah, that's my feedback. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see more videos from me where I talk about the business of Hollywood and writing and producing and telling stories, I do this multiple times a week, 3 times a week, right here at Wrestling with Story. Click subscribe, follow, all that stuff. It helps me make more videos and, maybe even make a living doing this, which, again, I don't know if you heard, but that's what this is all about. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Happy 4th of July.